I guess the real question is, do all these potential quarterback targets in the portal actually make Auburn better?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Jake Crain of Crain & Company hanging out with us on the Friday edition of the show. The week has flown by. Signing day's got me in a tizzy. So the portal opens on Monday, and we're going to talk about what needs Auburn has outside of quarterback and, the path to, Auburn becoming a better roster next year. But Jake, we've seen a lot of different names. In fact, you tweeted one out. You said, hey, this is one to watch, when there was a report that said Noah Fifita plans to enter the portal. You said, hey, this is one to watch. Noah Fifita, the former, maybe as soon as he enters the portal, we could say that. The Arizona quarterback. Does a guy like him make Auburn noticeably better next year?
Well, I think he does. Again, I think it's a different conversation. Does this guy make Auburn elite, or does this guy make Auburn better than last year? And I'm moved on from the Peyton Thorne era, but I think he would make Auburn better than what they were last year from an ability standpoint, from a talent standpoint. The running aspect of it in the RPO is the one thing I would question. Not that Noah can't run. I mean, he's really good at keeping plays alive by making guys miss in the backfield. But when it comes down to being a true threat to keep the zone read, to keep the RPO, to be able to line up and run Q power and power read and things like that, I think that's a little bit of a different story. But I do think overall, as far as a thrower, and his stats weren't amazing this year, but I don't think a lot of people really know kind of what went down at Arizona. If you remember, Jedd Fisch leaves Arizona to go to Washington. They bring in Brent Brennan from San Jose State,
who everybody over there says has been terrible.
It's been bad. I know I recruited a couple guys that played for him. Not that he's a bad guy or anything. It's just not to the level of what it needs to be. And Noah Fifita and McMillan and some of those guys decided to stay. That they could have hopped in the portal after Jedd Fisch left, and nobody would have blamed them, but they decided to stay. And once it started falling off a cliff, and again, not saying it's all on one person or anything, but there's a lot of stuff that went down in that Arizona program I don't think a lot of people realize. But as far as making Auburn elite, is he the best guy out there for what Auburn wants to do with Hugh Freeze and the style of offense? I would say no, but I don't think Auburn fans should be upset at all if he was the guy. My number one. Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like you were going there. Who is the number one?
It's the Mateer kid from Washington State for me. Now, will he follow his OC and go to Oklahoma? Obviously, Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma just hopped in the portal. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. I don't think it's as solidified as what some people think. But as far as fit and ability, I think Johnny Mateer out of Washington State is an absolute elite piece to fit into this style of offense. Plus, he's got a lot of dog in him. You watch them play. You watch the way they react to him on that team. He would be my first pick if I could pick one.
Yeah, it factor certainly seems to be. That's how a lot of people describe John Mateer for sure. I think I don't think Auburn's going to get him, and I've seen a lot of people kind of scoff at it. But I don't hate the idea of Hugh Freeze reuniting with Kaiden Salter. I'm higher on that than I think most people are. I don't know how much better it makes you, but of these names, I don't think Mateer is happening. Yeah. I'm with you.
The chances are low, but again, if I had to pick one,
that wasn't the conversation for sure. Yeah, I asked you who number one is for sure. But as far as realistic options, clearly Salter was interested last year. He entered the portal, took a visit, and then went back to Liberty. And now obviously he's going to be in the portal again. So that's one, especially when the conversation around this Hugh Freeze offense has been so much about being comfortable in the offense and executing the offense. I think getting a guy who's run Hugh Freeze's offense and been effective with it, I do think that I do think that that's worth something.
Yeah, I think the most interesting conversation is who would you rather have between Salter and Fifita if those are the choices. To me, I would rather have Salter. And people look and say, well, look, I mean, he got benched this year at Liberty and had some problems turning the ball over. Well, Fifita wasn't exactly, electric outside of throwing it to McMillan at Arizona, who may be the first wide receiver taken. If you don't know about the McMillan kid out of Arizona, he's an absolute
Mac is what he goes by. Yeah, and I think that's going to be an argument against Fifita, whether it's Auburn or whatever school is interested in Noah Fifita is, well, what if he didn't have T-Mac? Well, from the Auburn point of view, it's like,
yeah. What if I was 7 foot tall? I'd be in the NBA. Like it is what it is. But
but also it's like, well, he used them.
Yeah.
It's like, what if Cam Coleman got that many touches? Like, I feel like we'd be better.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, it's like McDonald's. If you're good at making burgers, make burgers, man. That's really the only thing. Arizona had no run game to speak of, really. Mm-hmm. They had to rely on really backyard football. But as far as Salter goes, you do have that familiarity with the system, with the offense. Which puts you way ahead of the curve because a lot of it is terminology. That's what a lot of teams run the same things, but they call them different things. So Kaiden Salter being able to already know at least 70, it's a lot easier for me to learn all of Japanese when I already know 75% of it. Like, and then you got to teach me the conjunctions or the contractions and all that stuff. That's fine. Or what do you call a fur carpet? Something like that, or fur rug. But as far as his ability, I think when you look at this Liberty team and what happened, he didn't have Cooley is a good back, but this wasn't a Liberty team that was loaded around him like some of the Liberty teams that we have seen in the past, like even with Hugh Freeze. So I think if you put Kaiden Salter with a supporting cast around him that is talented, an offensive line, which should be the second biggest portal coup for Auburn, you got to get tackles. I don't care if they're named too tall, too short, in the middle, or whatever. They got to be able to pass protect better. I thought the run blocking was actually pretty decent this season from Auburn. You don't get the leading rusher just because he can break 8 tackles every time he touches the ball. So if you could put Kaiden Salter in a situation where he's familiar with the system, has better personnel around him, and let him be able to create the way that he can, because he's very quick. He's very shifty. He doesn't run. He's not a heavy runner, but he's a very effective runner. It's tough to touch him. And I think that he's got to be the order I would put it of guys that are in now. I would say Mateer, I would say Salter, and then I would say Fifita.
Interesting. I think I would prefer, I think I would switch Fifita and Salter.
I think it's a great argument to have.
I just think the conversation around Salter, it's different than I expected it to be. And I don't know.
Well, Zach, let me, and Auburn can't, underpay for a quarterback, but
correct.
I think you could get Salter, who could be as effective as Fifita for a lower price and be able to use that money elsewhere in the portal to maybe be the thing that pushes a guy over the edge to come here. Like, I don't know.
Didn't we just do that? That, though?
See, again, though, the option, you can only get what the market bears, right? It's not, you can't go out there and be like, all right, listen, we have $5 million. We're just going to go and steal somebody's quarterback for $5 million if they don't want to go, because the quarterbacks that are worth their salt are going to be at places that can afford them, right? Like if we went and said, hey, Lenore Sellers, we want to give you $3 million. South Carolina could chalk up $3 million. They just paid Jakeem Stewart a lot of money to go there. So when I look at what the market has, as opposed to what could help Auburn and what they could use to spend elsewhere, I think that may be somewhat of a positive, but I'm with you. I would rather use the whole vault to go get an unbelievable elite piece. I would love if there was a Cam Ward out there to go get him. I just don't know if there is. And then if there isn't, there's a more efficient way, I think, to be able to supplement around the quarterback. And yeah, look, they didn't have to pay a ton for Peyton Thorne, but I think Kaiden Salter's better than Peyton Thorne. I think Fifita is better than Peyton Thorne. I think there's multiple guys out there that are better than Peyton Thorne. So I guess
the idea of Fifita is super interesting to me. You like all these guys more than Miller Moss? the USC quarterback?
I just, from a running aspect, I don't think he fits this. I think he's a pro style guy. I think he is a less talented running Stetson Bennett. I think so. And Stetson could run, but Stetson wasn't going up there. He didn't run because they were calling run plays.
Yeah, they're not running QB power with Stetson Bennett,
our zone read, or things like that.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's Miller's game.
I get it. I totally get it. What else does Auburn need to do in the transfer portal? It's kind of a long list. Let's jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, you can bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. And really, it's hard to argue against that. Right now, Auburn basketball has the best odds to win the national championship, if you're interested in that. And then, of course, the SEC championship is this weekend. If you're interested in wagering on the SEC championship, Texas is a 2.5-point favorite over the Georgia Bulldogs. So yeah, all new customers bet $5. If that first $5 bet hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. Insane value. Insane value. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. Home Field is the best place to buy the vintage Auburn swag. And it doesn't matter if it's just Auburn. If you're watching the show, I assume you care more about Auburn than anybody else, but they've got all colleges there over at Home Field Apparel. And if you're kind of shifting your focus from football to basketball or even baseball, they've got some cool stuff there as well. So check it out. Homefieldapparel.com. Use our promo code WarEagle24 to get a little knocked off of your Christmas shopping over at homefieldapparel.com. WarEagle24 is that promo code. Jake Crain of Crain & Company joining us. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. You mentioned tackle. Offensive line specifically, how many roster spots do they need to fill via the portal in your mind? They signed more offensive linemen than they typically do earlier this week, which is obviously good. I love Broderick Scholl. I love Ty Buster. I think both of those guys are going to be multi-year starters at Auburn, but not this year. Do you just go and get a left tackle, or do you try to get a left tackle and a right tackle?
Well, look, I know they're developing some young guys as well, some guys they got from the class previous to this one, and it's, you want a good blend, right? As you're getting the other guys ready, you want to be able to bring in mercenaries that can handle it. To me, I would like to go at least get 2. You can never have enough, if we're going to be honest. Now, you only get a certain amount of scholarships. We know that, at least, for right now in the structure of college football. Mm-hmm. To me, I think you go and get as many as you possibly can that are worth it. Right. And once you get one, you don't take another one unless you think they're worth it, or you need to have a body to round out the 8 to 9 amount of guys that have to be able to play at this level because of the battle of attrition. But the question becomes, what if it's going to take all the money in the vault just to get one, to get a really, really, really good one?
You better hit. You
better hit. But that's the game you play, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I think 2 would be a magic number. And they could be 2 guys that play left tackle, but one of them bumps over to right. Right. It's, to me, I always thought.
So are you done with Too Tall Miller? Like, how do you handle him?
I think you've got to continue to increase the competition, or you've got to bring in somebody that can continue to push him. I don't think, you shut his playing days down, or you push him to the side, but you need to create elite competition. That's what the Georgias do. That's what the Alabamas do. That's what the Michigans and the Ohio States do. They create an elite competition. You know what? If you got you got an amazing left tackle, you got a really good right tackle, and then your backup left tackle's a really good player too, maybe your left guard isn't good enough. Maybe you bump one of those tackles into guard. It's a lot easier to go from outside to inside than inside to outside. So I think just in general, in the portal, you got to get at least one, and then you go get best available.
How do you think they handle just the dynamic that is Dylan Wade is fascinating to me, because he could come back, he could go pro, or he could transfer. And to me, I think it's interesting because he can play multiple positions. So you do everything you can to keep him, and it's like, look, we're going to put you at left guard again, or at least we're going to try. That's interesting to me.
I think you answered your own question. You want the versatile guys. That's worth its weight in gold to me, that I can move you around, and God forbid some disaster happens at tackle and there's multiple injuries. We can bump you out there and we know you can at least hold up and you have some experience. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I say Travis Hunter, what a commodity. You can put him on offense, you can put him on defense. Well, versatility on the offensive line is unbelievably important because somebody's going to get hurt, right? Somebody's going to go down. You feel good about Connor Lew at center, but what happens if he gets hurt? You got to have a guy you can put in there at center that can snap, step, and block, which is not an easy thing.
Which you probably feel a little better about now with the way Braden Joyner finished the season.
You do. But again, you want all it's got to be a Waffle House menu, man. It's got to be, if this happens, we have an answer. If that happens, we have an answer. If the hash browns get smothered and covered, we got an answer, right? It just, to me, versatility, on the offensive line doesn't get talked about enough, but it is so incredibly important when you play such a physical and injury-prone position like that.
Yeah. What is your so tackle is second. What is third for you? Because here's where I think it gets a little hairy, because I think you could argue corner now because you missed out on Offord. I think you could argue defensive tackle just because you need so many of them, at least on paper. I also think you can make the argument for running back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hardy kid from ULM is really, really talented. Not a lot of people know about him either. I really like the way he runs.
Yeah, I want to talk about him next segment. I want to tell you my two favorite guys in the portal. He is one of them.
Here's what I would say, Zach. I will always be somebody that's a line of scrimmage first person. If there's a really good player available, whether it's at D tackle, whether it's at DN, it doesn't matter. I'm a line of scrimmage guy. But I think if you're Auburn, once you get past quarterback, you get past tackle, I think it's a situation where you just start taking best available. Look, the best player that we can get out there, let's go get them. The best two players we can get out there, let's go get them. So as far as, the perfect order of what I would love to see happen, I would love to go get an incredible 3-tech or an incredible nose and then an incredible boundary corner that can lock down.
Yeah. That list is longer than Auburn would like it to be, but there's several things that they need to go get. We'll see if they go and get them. I've got two guys that are my favorite non-quarterbacks in the portal. I want to get your thoughts on them. We already touched on one. It sounds like we agree. So more on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through, hot coals to get them just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy, no hoops. So Mint Mobile, they said it was easy to get a wireless plan for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. And I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. $15 a month for your mobile plan? Are you kidding me? To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. And there you'll see it right there on the website. All 3-month plans are just $15 a month, and all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Can't beat it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Jake Crain of Crain & Company hanging out with us. My favorite player in the portal. My favorite player in the portal is ULM running back Ahmad Hardy. He's expected to enter the portal next week per multiple reports. And I mean, we saw a glimpse of him when ULM came to Auburn earlier this year. This guy's a good player. This guy, I think, has a game that could translate to the SEC.
Oh, without a doubt. I think he's most likely going to be the top running back in the portal unless somebody else hops in there that I'm not thinking of. I would put him up there. I would put Concepcion up there as well. It's going to be fascinating to see the amount of guys that are about to enter the portal here over the next few days before it officially opens or they, plan to enter. But right now, those are two guys that I think could come in and really, really do some things. Concepcion's an NFL player. I know he had some drop issues this year at NC State, but if you have watched him and as a freshman last year, he not this current year, but the year before, he was incredible. So getting him, you talk about translate, he would not miss a beat playing in this league. So those would be my two as of right now.
Yeah, mine is Hardy, and then I'll stay with wide receiver C.J. Daniels, the
From
LSU former
he's
5-star kid. He, yeah, I would take that in a heartbeat, Jake.
I would like that. I would not be upset about that at all.
I mean, you got to think they get one or two receivers via the portal.
Yeah, they're going to supplement. I mean, you lose KLS, even though nowadays you can play 30 years in college football, so who knows? Maybe you can come back, and I just don't know it. You lose Robert Lewis, a guy that, is a slot guy, inside wide receiver.
Camden Brown has said he's entering the portal.
Yeah,
we assume Caleb Burton is going to enter the portal. And then whatever happens with Sam Jackson, even if Sam Jackson stays, your receiver room is Sam Jackson, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Bryce King, Malcolm Simmons.
Yeah. And
like, you need more.
You need some to continue to stack up the veteran help, right? To somebody to come in and take over that role
you got the true freshman coming in, but
you do. And they're talented, but like Cam Coleman's also got to take that next step. Cam Coleman's got to become the guy, but he needs a guy that can get him the ball, and they need to throw him the ball. So it's not just on Cam Coleman. We'll see if Perry's able to get a little bit more flexible in his hips, and be able to get in and out of breaks consistently. And now he's a year in, but we know Malcolm Simmons has a chance too.
What's that number in your mind of scholarship receivers that you want?
Man, if it was me, the amount of scholarship that I would want. Now, again, it kind of fluctuates because it depends on, where you're at in other position groups. But as far as adding scholarship wide receivers in this transfer portal class, I think it's at least 2 that you have to add that could eat up scholarships. Most likely.
Yeah, so they had 9 on the roster last year, and you had Rivaldo. I'm not counting Rivaldo Fairweather.
Okay.
With that, the tight end room appears that it's going to be not as explosive next year. You lose Rivaldo. Brandon Frazier gets that extra year. It's been reported that Micah Riley's entering the portal. And so it's like, what do you do there? So if that's the case, though, and you lose Robert Lewis, you lose KLS, and let's assume one of the 3 stays between Camden Brown, Sam Jackson, and Caleb Burton. You have those 5. You have 5 guys, and then the 3 freshmen that you signed earlier this week. So you're at 8.
I would probably put it at 10, but again, you look at the tight end room, you're gonna have to supplement that as well. I think Frazier said he's coming back. Did I see that earlier? But listen, I mean, if Auburn's not going to throw the ball to the tight end, just put an undersized offensive lineman in there. Rivaldo Fairweather was so underused this year; it was incredible to me.
Yeah, and he got more stuff late, and he did some stuff with it. He had a rough start to the year too, though. I mean, he had some drops and stuff, but
he did. But I mean, you throw a guy out of that. It's like bad shooters. If you're not shooting great at the beginning of the year, you don't just stop shooting.
How much of Rivaldo's snaps were from him being a receiver versus a tight end, though? Like that's my question.
Well, I know when you look at the tendency when he was out there, it was pretty heavy that some sort of passing concept. Now, again, look on the RPO or the bluff off split zone, sometimes it works itself out. It turns into a pass or whatever. But that's why, again, it's like finding a nickel or, people call it a slot corner that can cover a slot guy in man coverage, but is also good against a run. They're just not running around out there. So, whether it's getting in 12 personnel and having your bigger tight ends that can block and then the quote unquote flex Y in there as well. I think it was a combination of that. They were trying to beat tendencies too, which is a tough thing to do, right? Because as a defensive guy, if I see Fairweather out there and he's in the hip, or I see Fairweather out there and he's attached to the line of scrimmage, I'm thinking there's some sort of pass tag attached to whatever this play call is. So look, having a tight end that you can flex out is basically like having a wide receiver. So some guys count that scholarship in the wide receiver room as opposed to a true blocking style tight end that's not going to get a lot of passes, maybe gets a couple a year.
Yeah. So do you try to get another Rivaldo Fairweather in the portal?
I think if there's one available, if there's a really good tight end available that can do both, I think you do. I think that's worth the spot.
Yeah. I just don't know how often you're going to see that.
That's the problem. You're not, it's not just going to pop in there if those guys aren't growing on trees.
Right. You overall happy with early signing day?
Yeah, I thought Auburn did a good job. Look, we talked about it before the year. It's hard to sell, even in a place like Auburn, when you're not winning on the field.
Yeah.
Like, it makes it a lot harder. If Auburn would have gone 7-5, I think you got a top 5 class. I really believe that.
I agree with that.
But you can't keep looking bad on the field and recruits hearing, that to me is where the quarterback position hurt Auburn a lot. That's why it's amazing they got Deuce Knight, because I'm sure Lane Kiffin and all of them are like, look at who they decided to put at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You want that to be you? You want those guys making that decision for you? So kudos to him. Kenyatta Watson, the whole staff, Josh Aldridge. I thought they did a really, really good, about as good of a job as you can do in recruiting when you're not winning on the field. That's why this year, you got to go do it on the field. Like all the other stuff, it's just the sides. What happens on the field is the stake, and it'll help you in recruiting. If Auburn goes out there and has a great year next year and beats one of Alabama and Georgia, and they're in the college football playoff hunt, they'll sign a top 5 class because they got really, really good recruiters on staff. They just got to turn out to be really good coaches on the field too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Jake Crain of Crain & Company. How can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Very simple. Go to YouTube, Crain & Company, CRAIN and Company. We're talking a lot of Auburn too, talking a lot of transfer portal. So hop in there with us and let's have some fun.
Yep. Please do it. Please do it. Hey, like the video. Please subscribe to Locked On Auburn, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.